So really, do you guys like the pizza? My name is Joe McCann. I am the Director of Mobile and / Mobile Architect at Bazaar Voice. By a show of hands, who knows what Bazaar Voice is? So you guys know. And so for those of you that don't know what Bazaar Voice is, and I'm not going to talk about Bazaar Voice the whole time, but I just want to give you some context about what it is I do and what I want to talk about. Bazaar Voice, in super fluffy advertising sense, marketing, is we are the conversation piece between consumers and brands or retailers. So essentially, if you go onto Walmart.com and you look up a video camera, for example, and you see all the ratings and reviews associated with that, Bazaar Voice is actually hosting that content, moderating it, curating it, etc. And we operate at web scale. We do about 24 billion page views a month. So it's a pretty big company as far as the amount of content that we do, the type of clients we have, etc. But I'm not going to talk about Bazaar Voice anymore. I actually want to talk about a little bit about what I do and what I'm doing now and how I got there. So I actually am also a lifelong entrepreneur, which sounds kind of odd because I work for a publicly traded company now. So, but to tell you how I got there is I guess how I want to kick off this conversation to not only hopefully inspire you to either continue doing what you guys are doing, but also consider the opportunities that also lie in working at an actual company. So the first I guess business I did was when I was 10 years old. I would go to Kmart and buy 10 packs of Juicy Fruit for $1, and then go to school and sell them for $1 a piece, which was against the rules because you weren't allowed to have gum in 5th grade. But it worked out pretty good, and so I started to get into like business model at like a very young age, and I really dug it. And then when I was 19, I actually started my first official company. It was a music and event production company in Portland, Oregon. That went over pretty well. It led me into starting a couple record labels, electronic music, and then I started a DJ, producing music. And at the same time, I also got into the capital markets. So I taught myself trading in the equities and Forex and options markets, and then got into real estate. Unfortunately, got out before it got really bad. In the meantime, my brother and I also started a clothing line. None of these companies made me rich. None of them made me some awesome individual. But the experiences from it, I think, ultimately led me into what I'm doing now, and that's anything in the mobile space. So how many of you in the room have an iPhone? How many of you have a BlackBerry, if you're willing to admit it?
Have one?
Have one?
Have.
Currently, no. Yeah. Android device? Great. Does anybody not have a smartphone? So do you have a phone at all? Okay. No, I'm saying. So this is pretty representative of the trend in North America, United States, for the most part, and the rest of the developed world. And most of the startups, or a lot of the really amazing ideas, are focused on a mobile-first technology strategy. So I guess there's a handful of teams in this room. How many of you, I guess, or your teams are working on something that's mobile-related? So maybe half the room, a third of the room? Okay, for the rest of you, are you considering mobile as a platform? What about the web? Yeah? What about TV?
What do you mean by TV? As a noticeable?
Like, is it TV as an app store, as a distribution network, or anything along these lines? I guess the point I'm getting to is that focusing on mobile first, no matter what you're doing, is a fantastic way of dealing with a lot of the development issues and design issues that you get maybe in like the web browsing space. But the bottom line is that you actually end up needing to have a multi-channel approach, and that's why I mentioned TV, the web, desktop web, tablets, iPhones, wristwatches, you name it. In-store kiosks, movie theaters, anywhere where there's a screen, there's an opportunity. anything that's in your wallet right now could be replaced with something on your mobile phone. So I just encourage people to think in that regard in a mobile-first context, but don't let mobile just be the phone itself. Right? Let it be any other potential screen or endpoint for that matter. So I also wanted to ask, anybody in the room that is doing anything on mobile or even doing it on the web about, let's do a hypothetical. If you're going to build an app right now, and everybody has an app idea, just like everybody has a bumper sticker idea, and all that, right? What platform would you target first? By a show of hands, who would target BlackBerry first? Android first. iPhone first. Why iPhone?
Market share.
But they have less than Android.
Market share that's willing to spend money.
Sorry?
Market share that's willing to spend money.
Correct. So like business opportunity, the business value, right? The other upside though with iPhone is that it's really pretty, right? And Android, it's not so much. BlackBerry is horrible. But you should also know that if you want to capture a large market, you should probably eventually be going after all these as well. And how do you do that technologically? Well, if you can find an iPhone developer that's cheap, doesn't exist. Well, let's say you can, then you have iOS app, which is Objective-C, the programming language. But then if you do Android, then you have to find a Java developer. And if you do, say, Symbian, then you need to find C++ developer. Symbian is Nokia. Windows Phone 7, maybe C#, XAML, Silverlight, something like that, right? The point is that now you've got all these different layers of technology, and how do you support these in a rapidly changing environment? Sorry?
That's to make them all native?
Correct. That's native applications. So there is one solution to this that I wanted to share with you guys that maybe you can consider when you're building mobile applications, and it's a project called PhoneGap. Has anybody heard of PhoneGap? So PhoneGap, this is great that no one's heard of it for the most part. PhoneGap is basically it's a JavaScript library, and JavaScript is the language of the web, right? So HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It enables you to write your code essentially one time, and it gets distributed across all of these platforms. So you can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to do native application development and target multiple platforms, BlackBerry, Windows Phone 7, iOS, Android, etc. So now the concept behind how do I, if I only focus on iOS, there's a business opportunity there, but it's a third of the market, 40% at best. But now you can capture the greater share of the market with a technology that also is widely adopted and used by web developers. It's just web development. It's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So consider that. I highly recommend it. Also, it's completely open source, and it's an MIT license. It's a super liberal license. It's basically you can do anything you want with it. So consider that, because I think one of the problems a lot of people have when it comes to mobile is finding developers and finding designers for native application development. And PhoneGap opens you up to the entire resource pool of web developers, because it's just essentially HTML and CSS and JavaScript that you're writing. So consider that. Finally, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to see if there's any questions anyone had around mobile or issues that you see arising with the stuff that you're building or the stuff that you're working on, or thoughts around mobile, or what my thoughts are, or whatever. So, any questions? Any thoughts? Sir?
Is Microsoft going to come back?
Great question. So Microsoft, I don't know if many of you know, but Microsoft and Nokia struck a partnership last year to sort of revitalize both of their struggling brands. Unfortunately, if you saw Nokia's earnings this past week, it's not working out so well. Windows Phone 7 has a very strong chance of helping Microsoft and Nokia come back this year, and I think the reason is that right now Windows Phone 7 is only available in 15 countries. Nokia has the largest footprint worldwide for mobile handset distribution, and they haven't even started to open up all of those distribution channels yet. So I think if and when they open up those distribution channels and they price the phones according to those particular markets, they should, in theory, have an uptick in global market share. When it comes to the U.S., I think they have a really tough battle to fight against iOS and Android. It's really a two-horse race at this point. Yeah?
How soon will tablet apps become very, very important for already?
That's a fantastic question as well. So tablets, the question is, when will tablets become sort of a necessity, if you will, right, for application development? We're starting to see that right now, and by 2016, it's estimated there'll be 1 billion smartphones and 250 million tablets. And tablets are redefining the mobile landscape, the computing landscape as a whole. We actually call it a casual computing device. More than half of tablet usage actually occurs at home, but it's still considered a mobile device because you can take it nearly anywhere. It's thin, has a nice long battery life, etc. The upside is I think where it becomes almost a necessity is when particular verticals need to leverage a bigger screen, but tackle the casual computing space. And what I mean by that is think about you're sitting on your couch and you're sort of thumbing through a product catalog for Nordstrom's or something, right? So Nordstrom should have a really strong tablet strategy. But in addition to that, the tablet should it's also considered the second screen, I guess, when you're watching TV. So expect to see a lot of tablet applications start to integrate directly in with television and TV shows as a whole. So I don't know if you guys watched the Super Bowl, you saw that you could actually Shazam the commercials and you can Shazam the actual commentary during the Super Bowl, and it would send you back stats, right? Real-time stats from the Super Bowl. This sort of stuff is just the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to see with tablet integration in TV, and that's when I think it really starts to reach critical mass. Yes?
So tablets close to like a desktop web, form factor, but it's a little smaller. How do you make the decision whether you need to have a native app or just a nicely formatted tablet, website?
It's a great question. If you're resource constrained, which most companies are, you typically want to go with an HTML5 web app that can leverage a lot of the fanciness that you're going to get on an iPad. And if you go that route, you also skip the deployment channel issue of having to go through the App Store and the App Store process. So has anybody actually put an app on the App Store? Have you tried? It is a nightmare. It's really, really, really difficult, and they can just turn you away for any reason. And this is why the Financial Times ended up building an HTML5 version of their app, and they saw subscriptions go through the roof because they could actually own and control that deployment channel, make changes really quickly, and feed content in that makes sense. Now, if you're doing something like Angry Birds, and it's a game that needs to leverage pretty hardcore OpenGL processing, you're not going to do that in the browser right now. So I think can you balance the business use case with what the actual product is that you need to actually put on a tablet? And the last point I want to make is that if you do go the HTML5 route, then you're automatically hitting Android tablets, Windows Phone 7, Windows 8 tablets, whenever they come out, because it's just a website essentially at that point. Last question.
I'm probably one of the few softies in the room out of everyone here. And I was just wondering, since I've got my eye on all this stuff, I'm actually going to be in Windows Phone division pretty soon. What do you think about the coordinated Windows Phone 8 plus Windows 8 launch?
Sorry?
Do you think it's going to have any success?
Windows
If
Phone.
they coordinate Windows Phone 8 and Windows 8 launch at the same time, so they have simple UIs.
Yeah, I actually think they're going to have relatively strong success globally. They're still going to have, from the phone aspect in the US market, it's going to be difficult. What I like about Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 8 when it comes out, it's actually one of the sexiest UIs on a phone, period. But it's very difficult for Microsoft to shake the Microsoft part of Microsoft. So Apple has nailed it as far as how they're marketing, and I think that's really what it's going to boil down to. The coupling of it is wise for sure. From a developer's perspective as well, you can start to build Windows 8 apps for the desktop, the PC. and also for the phone, right? So
Same framework.
if developers adopt the platform, then I think you're going to have a much better shot of regaining that market share. So I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you guys so much. I hope I wasn't too product pitchy, but enjoy the pizza and the drinks. Thanks.